reflect on disparity, on difference, I think the aspect of disparity that's so frustrating is that disparity contrasts to the fact that we're all actually the same, that all of us need the same things, and the fact that you can drive 30 minutes north or 35 minutes west, and that you're also driving about 10 years of life expectancy difference, tells us something fundamental about the fact that we have to contrast the dissonance of knowing that we all need and require the same things, but not all of us have those things. I'm from a Muslim faith tradition, and there are many shared aspects of Islam and Judaism. And one of them is a verse that motivated me to go to medicine. And it says, and I'll read it in Arabic and then translate, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّهُ أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. And he who saves or she who saves a life, is it as if he or she has saved all of humanity. And for me, this was extremely motivating. And when I was in college, I thought I wanted to be a surgeon in sub-Saharan Africa. I clearly failed at that, much to my parents' chagrin. But I realized that as I started learning about disparities like this, it became very clear to me that there was something far bigger about the nature of the forces that allow some of us to live a full 80-year life expectancy and some of us to suffer far more and to die younger. And that has to do with access to public health. Now, public health is what we as a society do collectively to assure conditions within which people can be healthy. We as a society do collectively to assure conditions within which people can be healthy. It's about context, it's about space, it's about what that space can offer you, the means of having the kind of life that you and I have access to, that privilege of being able to know that you can turn on a faucet and get water, or that you can breathe deeply, and that what you are breathing is not going to fundamentally make you sick. Now, going back to the tradition, in our tradition, or in Arabic, the word to breathe is nefis, which literally means to give yourself soul. To give yourself soul. And that notion that you actually have to pull out of the world around you to give yourself soul, that's why public health matters. Now, public health is also about institutions, right? It's about building institutions that can provide those things for people in particular places. We had failed at doing that for a very, very long time in the city. What we're trying to do at the Detroit Health Department is build an institution that provides the means of good health. Now, we are constantly aspiring, because that's what institutions do, because institutions are built of people. And people are imperfect. And people, if they have perfection, it's because they aspire to be better tomorrow than they were today and were yesterday. So we have built an institution that attempts to address some of these challenges. I want to speak specifically to this notion of nefis, to bring in soul. In the city of Detroit, our children are 3 times more likely to be hospitalized for asthma than children anywhere else in the state on average. 3 times more likely. And part of that is because this is a traditionally industrial city. And traditionally, as an industrial city, our government has said nothing and done nothing about who could and could not put the externalities of their work into the air. You can burn whatever you want to burn because we're going to make money off it. And if it goes into a child's lungs, if it makes that child's lungs constrict such that that kid cannot bring in soul, well then, so be it. It's all good because we're making our cash. And so our job fundamentally is to stand up as an institution of people, to stand up and say, you can't do that anymore. Because at the end of the day, we will be judged on how we value our most vulnerable. And insofar as you are making $1 and the consequences of that dollar are that a child in our city is more likely to go to the hospital because that child cannot bring in soul, that is unacceptable. But I want to reflect also on institutions being people, right? We collectively are part of government. This is a government for the people and by the people. It's a government that asks of us to stand up to help to set our own agenda. That is a beautiful thing. I grew up going back and forth to Egypt. That's where my family's from. And I can tell you what not having democracy looks like. But I can also tell you that we are backsliding quite a bit. We are backsliding quite a bit. And insofar as we are unwilling to come together, right? Come together, all of us, whether you are a working person in Detroit or a working person in Owasso, when we are unwilling to come together around the well-being of our most vulnerable, when we are unwilling to demand agendas that put our most vulnerable first, then at some point we end up back in a position where that for the people, by the people is actually an indictment of us, the people. And so I'm admiring of people like Monica, who force government to be better every day. And trust me, Monica and I have had many, many conversations. And I can tell Monica, in my role, I have tried my hardest to advocate for the kinds of things that she advocates. And that's a lot of the reason why I've realized that in my institutional position, I answer an agenda, I don't set an agenda. Which is largely why I realize that if we care about public health, then we have to put public health at the top of the agenda. If we care about public education, we have to put public education at the top of the agenda. If we care about our most vulnerable, then we have to care about those institutions that serve our most vulnerable and put them at the top of the agenda. Because it is fundamentally unjust when a child in this city has 3 times the likelihood of being put in a hospital because that child cannot bring in soul, when you could drive 30 minutes either way and breathe deeply. So, my call to you is that at this point right now, it is very easy for us to read Facebook. It's very easy for us to watch CNN. It's really easy for us to scroll Twitter and like some stuff and retweet some stuff. But this is a moment where we have to redefine our country as being for people, by people. And good people have to stand up to be a part of that. And standing up means sometimes putting yourself in the positions where you are trading off some of your privilege so somebody else can have a little bit more. So somebody else can take in soul. Because in the end, we will define ourselves, ultimately, by how well the most vulnerable in our communities do. Regardless of what the color of their skin are, regardless of how much money they make, the kind of job they work. And we have that opportunity. Thank you.